Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm, and you are watching fifth part of What If Naruto Became Demonic Nemesis. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Now, wasting no time, let's start the story.
In the forest not far from Tezuna's home. So that's what happened to Sasuke all those years ago. I remember that he never was the normal giddy kid, but I always thought it was strange that he became so dark, even with losing his family. But to lose them to his own brother? Hearing what Naruto was thinking, Kira concluded that he had to make his own decision, saying that Uchiha is something Naruto-kun needs to decide for himself. Just as I had to. There is just so much pain in the world, all different, but still is painful. Maybe, Sasuke and I are closer than I thought, that's for later. How should I train them? I'm not exactly ready to teach anyone. I only learned because of Kage Bunshin, and I can't have them do that, I wouldn't be nearly as far without them. Naruto concluded that working with each of his teammates in turn would be the most effective way to train them. To his dismay, Kira was sound asleep when Naruto tried to ask for advice, but he really couldn't hold it against her. She had been writing in that scroll for nearly 2 days without stopping. Even though she didn't require as much sleep as he did, just a few hours, going so long without sleep was exhausting. Furthermore, he relished a solid 8 hours now that he was able to. Naruto gave Hinata the Jiyuken Kata to practice with while he made the decision to begin training with Sakura. Naruto was taken aback when Sasuke requested a medical jutsu when he went to ask for one to practice. Evidently, Sasuke found it annoying that he was the only team member without a basic med jutsu and that he didn't want to rely on Naruto for everything. Naruto believed it would be a brilliant concept. Sasuke would benefit from having more control, and Naruto believed that Sasuke needed to know the fundamentals, so he gave him the Chiyu no Jutsu, basic healing. It was a very simple jutsu, entirely dependent on the quantity of chakra employed. It seemed the limit of the jutsu was flesh wounds and tiny bone cracks, but all one had to know was how to manipulate the chakra and then just pump in chakra until the wound healed. To his surprise, Sakura only needed Naruto's company for roughly 45 minutes before she exhausted herself. Usually, she would hardly last 20. Okay Sakura, you are doing really well. You have mastered the chakra Enjingtu, scalpel, perfectly. You can even keep it active for 15 minutes straight. I think you should focus on your stamina and speed now. You really don't seem like the brute strength type. He said after going over a few fundamental healing jutsu and training tips with her to keep her going. After beaming at the compliments, Sakura inquired, "How should I do that, Naruto?" The others in the group exchanged glances that could be read on Sasuke. I'm not exactly the best teacher. Honestly. I don't know why Kakashi Sensei asked me to train everyone. Naruto was an excellent instructor of what he already knew, but the only way I know to build your chakra reserves is to drain them and let them refill. So I am going to teach you a very special jutsu for this, but before I do, you have to promise me that you won't use it unless it's an emergency. As far as I can tell, it will drain you dry to use it once. I'll let you know when you can make more, alright Sakura? Sakura asked, "What jutsu are you going to teach me, Naruto?" And only nodded firmly. Then, out of nowhere, she did something unexpected. She said, "Kun?" After being startled for a brief moment, Naruto said, "Kage Bunshin, Sakura." Chan, with a small fox grin. They both smiled slightly at the new thing. They weren't sure what it was, but it felt like they were becoming more intimate, or at least more friendly. Given her level of chakra control, Sakura only needed 2 tries to get it right after teaching the Kage Bunshin. Naruto watched her perform it correctly, but once she did, he was confident that her reserves would rise swiftly. About the usage of chakras, he was correct. She depleted her reserves to slightly beyond fatigue after creating a single clone. But what really infuriated Naruto was that after creating her first clone, the girl discovered the Kage Bunshin's trick. She only moved her clone's gaze from where it had been before it dispersed. That she had discovered what it had taken him sending a clone to the bottom of a lake embarrassed Naruto to her core. Then all he needed to do was ask Kira to explain how it operated, but Sakura naturally began yelling it out to everyone. After telling everyone about the technique's risks and persuading Sasuke that it wouldn't be worth it until he could make 10 and still have half of his reserves, and even then it would only marginally aid in training unless hundreds were used, Naruto had the biggest headache. He advised them to proceed cautiously when using the clones to assist in training. They all understood after he told them that the jutsu could kill them. Sakura had to rest for almost an hour in order to restore her chakra, so she started having her clone read one scroll while she read another. Since Hinata had not yet mastered the Kenjutsu, she simply left it alone and went back to her kata. Apparently, recalling the lessons learned during the formation of Team 7, Sasuke made the decision to give it a go. To everyone's amazement, Sasuke managed to create 11 clones, but it took all of his energy, much to Naruto's chagrin. Naruto simply approached Sasuke and placed his hand on his stomach to start replenishing his reserves. Okay Teme, we all can see that you have skill, but you're not the one that needs to increase your reserves like that. Doing it this way will only hurt you since you already have above average reserves for a genin. Sakura needs to do it this way to increase her reserves faster so she can move on to other jutsu. Until she does, she really doesn't have anything else to do but increase her reserves, but your reserves will increase by normal training. Draining yourself dry to only have to wait around to rest is useless. Dobi, how do you make so many of those? It takes more chakra than my Gukakyu no Jutsu, Grand Fireball. Sasuke asked, his only expression being one of annoyance. Hey, after using it enough, it increases your reserves quite a bit. When we aren't on a mission, you may want to try it. As for the training technique, you can figure it out on your own. Now that you have drained yourself, why don't you take a break while I work with Hinata? Chan. That way we can spar when I'm done. Here is a variation of the jutsu I gave you before to work on, Satsugaite no Jutsu, killing chakra. This jutsu will reverse any healing from a medic. Nin from the last 24 hours. Briefly as he caught his breath. What good is that jutsu and why do I have to rest? I thought you just refilled my chakra? Replied Sasuke. Then he became quiet. This jutsu was originally meant to fix mistakes that medics may make in the heat of the moment. Like if we misalign a bone or get a muscle twisted. You see, Nin healing is really only a quick fix, after which the body finishes it up by the next day or so. If you get stabbed and I heal it, all I do is close the wound. It's not like I reverse time and put you back to normal. All I do is put you back into battle, but the spot of the wound is still weak. For example, say you broke your arm and I heal it. It's working again, but if you punch something hard enough, it will break again. So if I know an enemy has been healed, I can use this to reverse it mid-battle and have a huge advantage. Said Sasuke. That's right, but it's also if you ever mess up. Think of it as a do-over for a medic. Nin. As for why you need to rest, I just gave you my chakra. When I've given you chakra in the past, it was only enough to get you back up, but I just refilled your reserves from nothing. You need to let your body circulate it and filter it for your own use. Now while you work on that, Hinata, Chan and I will get started. Hi, Naruto-kun. Hinata exclaimed, assuming the standard Juken stance. For the next hour, Naruto and Hinata engaged in non-stop combat. He had to be alert around the girl. She would constantly mix her normal strikes with her Juken strikes to keep Naruto off balance, forcing him to alternate between blocking and dodging. To keep up with her, Naruto even attempted to use his Shinkarugen at one point, but to his dismay, he was unable to control his chakra sufficiently for that. He thought to himself, shit, it seems just pumping chakra into the proper tenketsus is easier than other matters. By the time the spar was over, Naruto was completely spent. Naruto ended with a foxy grin, but this one was unlike his previous ones. Damn Hinata, what was up with that? You were after me like I was a demon or something. Hinata was simply clueless as to how. This was to tell where I am with Juken, wasn't it Naruto? Kun? Hinata asked after gathering her thoughts. What would be the point in holding back? She asked. That was the idea, Naruto said with a sharp laugh, but it seems that because I've gotten a little lazy that you're the stronger of the two of us in taijutsu at the moment, Hinata. Chan. Sasuke said, you forgot about your weights, Dobi. If you hadn't had them on you would have done better. Sakura, Hinata, and Sasuke all gave Naruto a strange look. Sorry to disappoint you Sasuke, but I stopped wearing those after the fight with Zabuza, said Naruto as he raised his wrist. My body has reached its limit of what it can get from weight training for now. At least until I get a little older, or I go nuts with the weights and do like 300 pounds per limb. I could have moved faster if I wanted to, but I can't maintain my full speed for long and Hinata only would have activated her Byakugan and we would have been right back where we were. As for now, Hinata. Chan is the better taijutsu user. thud. Sasuke pointed to Hinata and said, "Hinata fainted." Naruto sighed deeply. "I really thought we were over this with her," and he went to check on Hinata. "Well, I don't know if this should be a relief or a reason to worry." Sakura questioned from her perch against a tree, "What is?" After explaining, Naruto picked her up and placed her down by a tree so she could rest. "Well, she fainted because of not only chakra exhaustion but physical exhaustion as well. She went all out in our spar to beat me." "Naruto, you said you stopped using your weights after the fight with Zabuza. Why did you? And don't give me that, I was at my limit crap, because I know you could just have added more weight to push past it if you took enough time. The weight you had on before was crazy enough." Sasuke responded with anger. After creating another cage bunshin, Sakura rested next to Hinata, and Naruto turned to face Sasuke. "I stopped because if I hadn't had those weights on, Zabuza wouldn't have hit me in the first place. I actually forgot to remove them. After that, I decided that from now on I would only wear them for training and not on missions anymore. It's just not a risk I need to take. I may be able to drop them after removing one, but what if I don't have the chance?" When Sasuke inquired, "By the way, Dobi, what were your weights at when you removed them?" Sakura simply nodded her head in comprehension. As soon as Naruto finishes speaking, he feels one of his cage bunshin disperse. Just over 100 pounds apiece for a total of just about 408 pounds, it puts me between Chunin and Junin speed, depending on whether I use chakra or not. Naruto had to ask, "Sasuke, have you ever come close to activating your Sharingan before?" After reading what had been sent to him, Naruto stood up and took off his vest, laying his sword and supply belt aside. Sasuke appeared to lose any ease he had before Naruto's question and hardened his gaze as he replied, "No, I haven't. I don't know why you would ask something like that now, Dobi." Then Naruto placed them beside Hinata. Gradually rising, Naruto pulled out his sword and threw the sheath next to his vest. Sakura and Sasuke began to stare at Naruto strangely. Slowly nodding while keeping his eyes fixed on Naruto's blade, Sasuke said, "Remember how I told you that when a cage bunshin is dispersed, whatever it's learned is transferred to the creator? Alright, I left a couple around Tizuna's place just in case, and one just dispelled because it thought something was very important for me to know," Naruto said, raising the blade into a starter stance and channeling a tiny bit of chakra into it. "I just heard that the Sharingan can only be activated two ways. The first is a way only known to the Uchiha clan. The second is the need for it. The user has to be in danger against an opponent they can't beat on their own. So my training will be to activate my Sharingan." "Not bad, Dobi, but how do you plan to do it? We are almost evenly matched, so how do you plan to be an opponent I'll need it against?" Sasuke asked, finally realizing where this was going. Naruto just took his scroll apart and opened two sealed items. Firstly, he offered to lend him his weights until they were finished. This would give him a slight advantage as you won't be accustomed to them. Secondly, he instructed him to constantly channel a small amount of chakra to his eyes in order to stimulate the change. Lastly, he unrolled his scroll and revealed a large chest. Then, from inside the same chest, he throws Sasuke the most fascinating sword he has ever seen. Its length easily exceeded 4 feet. Shiny black leather covered its sheath, displaying a blue dragon twisting toward the grip. The guard that was visible appeared to be made of polished silver with elaborate grooves and designs. The grip, bound in brown leather, appeared to be slightly over a foot on its own. Where someone would have gripped the sword appeared to have 3 silver rings. The handle appeared to be designed for bashing strikes, with a length of 2 inches and a width of roughly 3 inches. Sasuke let out a small gasp of surprise as he pulled the sword from its sheath. In front of his eyes rested a perfect, polished blade with intricate grooves that were all razor sharp. It appeared that a blow to someone with the blades flat would still inflict some damage. When Naruto abruptly said, "I found that when I was in Suda." Raito. The weapon. Smith said it was originally meant for Akumo. Nin, but the man never came to pick up the order. "I just thought it seemed to be you." Sasuke couldn't help but become uneasy as he studied the blade. After a moment of staring at the blade, Sasuke lightly touched the area in front of the guard. From the main blade's grooves came 2 blades that resembled hooks. With his head still too deep in the blade, Sasuke questioned, "What are these for?" "I've been wondering that myself." The man said that it was meant for Akumo. Nin, so maybe it's for a Raiden jutsu, or maybe after you impale someone, you extend them before pulling the blade out. It really doesn't matter. The swordsman makes the sword. Sasuke took a moment to examine the blade once more. Why? Why would the Dobi, Naruto, why would Naruto do this? It can't be the teamwork thing? Every time I have been given a gift since then, it's always been out of pity or worry for me. Why, Naruto? While Sasuke remained in his initial stance, Naruto cast an interested glance at him and asked, "Why what, Sasuke?" Naruto was silent as he lowered his stance and drove his sword into the ground. "Why did you give me this? And why are you always teaching us, giving away jutsu? You even risked your life when we fought the demon brothers? Why do you do it?" he asked. "Why? You really don't get it, do you, Sasuke? Remember when I told you about Inari's pain? I said family is the way to end the cold. I never had a family, you lost yours, so you know what I'm talking about. I have always been in the cold, but I am always looking for a new family, and I finally think I'm making one of my own. I have Kira, Chan, Hinata, Chan, Iruka, Sensei, and I am even starting to feel like Team 7 as a family. I don't care what the two of you think about it. That is just the way I feel. I don't want to lose the family I am finally making for myself, and the best way to do that is to make us as strong as we can be. I don't expect us to share everything. We are ninja, and there are things we keep from each other. But as long as we are willing to teach each other, learn from each other, and work together," Naruto says, glancing at Sakura and Sasuke while he draws his sword and assumes a ready stance. When he says, "I know we won't fail," Naruto ignites the flames with a flaming red glow. Naruto charged at Sasuke with lightning. Fast reflexes. Sasuke's careless defense was met with an impact strike from Naruto that sent him flying backward and into a tree. The red glow spread down Naruto's arms and enveloped Sasuke as he slid back into the starter stance and fixed his gaze on him. With a sideways slash in his sights, Sasuke lunged towards Naruto, his sword at his side. If that's why you're doing this, Dobi, then so be it." The blow was easily deflected by Naruto, who then turned around and slid his blade along Sasuke's as he did so. Naruto struck Sasuke hard in the back with a diagonal blow before he could move, sending him into the ground. "Slow down, Sasuke. A sword like that is meant for hard, quick, straight out strikes. If you keep trying these fancy attacks, you're going to get hurt." With a slow rise to his feet, Sasuke asks, "What would you advise, Sensei?" In an extremely sarcastic and honorific tone. Naruto was just staring annoyed as he said, "Take a simple stance and begin slowly. Take it one step at a time, and speed up as you feel comfortable. I'll give you a few scrolls with basic kata later." Sasuke simply stands there and imitates Naruto by raising his sword in front of him. "Let's see if I can figure you out." Sakura watched the two boys, smiling softly all the while. She had witnessed Naruto use those odd markings on Sasuke previously, but they appeared to flare up briefly before vanishing. The difference in Naruto was evident when they were together, even though she had never seen them for this extended of time. Sakura fiddled with her hair, causing Hinata to stir slightly and remark, "Looks like our boys are having fun." Far from the genin training ground, under the shadow of several large trees, two excited pairs of eyes watch with delight. It seems they are progressing faster than even I could have imagined. Kukuku, even with Sasuke Kun among the children, this growth is glorious, the excited pair says. Then he said, "Start the preparations." It seems this chance is far too tempting to let pass, as a shadow moved behind him. The man with long white hair said, "Hi, master. Or is it Hoeto now?" "Kukuku, for now, at least. With Kakashi still weak, this is the perfect chance to strike." "Excellent, Hoeto Sama, I'll arrange to handle the Uchiha." However, before the man could vanish, Hoeto said something that took the shadowed man by surprise. "Make preparations for 2, be ready by nightfall." The man with white hair questioned, "2, my lord? You have interest in another?" "The Kunoichi are of little concern. A few Chunin will keep them busy. I want a squad of Chunin with us to handle them. I will handle Sasuke, Kun and Naruto. Kun myself." Hoeto watched the genin curiously for a while longer, but the white-haired man couldn't help but shiver when he saw the cold features of Hoeto's face crack into a sadistic smile. Later that day, we find all the genin sitting around Tezuna's table, are laying around the table in the case of Naruto and Sasuke. Hinata had seen better days. Her hair was ragged and her clothes were torn in several places, cuts and bruises were a plain sight on her. Sakura had a rather good sized bruise on her right cheek and just looked exhausted. Sasuke had multiple bruises all over his body in straight lines thanks to the impact strike from Naruto's sword. He also had a very nasty claw wound on his right arm from when Naruto had gotten too into the fight. Thankfully, in the rush Naruto hadn't used the acid, or it could have really been nasty. Naruto thou was the worst for the wear. Multiple sword wounds from Sasuke, healed or not, they still hurt, a good amount of bruises from Hinata, as well as several internal injuries from her Gyuken strikes, and he had the very unwelcome experience of having several of his tendons and major muscle groups damaged thanks to Sakura. Damn, remind me not to let you guys spar with me all at once again, groaned Naruto from his spot on the floor. Sasuke winced as he sat up and said, "You're the one that asked us to fight you all at once for your training turn, Dobi. What happened to my chakras all messed up, so I need to train in my Ken and Taijutsu. You need to think a little more outside of medicine. What happened to, I want to know the limits of my healing." Teased Sakura as she bandaged Sasuke's arm. You did ask them to fight you all at once, Naruto-kun. Without the use of your chakra, you were just at too much of a disadvantage. You did amazingly well, but being limited to Taijutsu and Kenjutsu was a big handicap, and all their attacks just started to add up. You may heal fast, but not nearly fast enough to take that kind of damage. Eventually your healing had to focus on the internal damage that the girls were dealing, and that left Sasuke's damage to just keep building up until you had to give up. Basically, you got your ass kicked. But why is my question? I need to know what made my body give out like that. If it happens in a real battle, I could die. The damage I can understand, but why did I faint? Here Naruto-kun, let me heal you, said Hinata as she activated her healing jutsu and began on some of the slower healing injuries. Thank you, Hinata-chan, said Naruto as he smiled at the feeling of being healed for a change. Why did you pass out like that anyway, Dobi? Asked Sasuke after Sakura had finished wrapping his arm. Let me think about it for a while. I really don't know yet myself. Naruto then laid back against a nearby wall, and to his surprise, Hinata laid back as well, setting her head on his chest. He couldn't help but have a small smile on his face. Enjoying yourself, are you? Asked Kira. Of course, who wouldn't enjoy it? Now that the outside monologue is done, can I explain? Asked Kira being slightly edgy. Of course, Kira-chan. Sorry about that, but it's really hard to follow a voice in my head and from outside. It's alright Naruto-kun, as for why you fainted Hinata. Style, slight giggling, it was simply that you drew on too much energy at once. You were attempting to use your dojutsu and failing, badly wasting chakra. Feeding energy into your sword. Your body was naturally taking energy as it always does. You pushed chakra into your legs, increasing your speed. And you even used a few low-level jutsu. I was surprised you were able to control yourself that well, what with how out of alignment you were at the moment. I guess all that chakra control and nin work pays off in other aspects as well. Kira then became silent for a moment. Normally this level of strain would be nothing, but because you also had all those injuries to heal and your body was still out of sync, it was just too hard trying to send all that chakra to so many places and having your body fight against itself. So I have a limit to how much damage I can take and still fight. Of course you do, Baka. Even I had a limit before I was sealed. What gave you the idea that you didn't? Well, I just figured that unless I ran out of chakra, I was good to go. With a deep sigh, Naruto-kun, you could have 10 times more chakra than me, but your body would still tire. How can I make you understand? Kira then closed her eyes and took a moment to think until she started to speaking with her eyes still closed. Spirit energy is the power created from your experience, knowledge, and emotions. Physical energy is created by training, health, and life in general. It is what humans and demons mix to create chakra and yuki. Kira then took a moment to think. The only real difference is that demons are more powerful than humans in both aspects of spirit and body. Demons live longer and are physically stronger, which makes our separate energies stronger, which makes our mix stronger. Kira-chan, this is horribly interesting and all, but what does it have to do with me having a limit? Okay, the simple version is chakra takes physical energy to create. Whenever you use chakra, you use a portion of your physical energy. I told you before that your body naturally makes chakra for multiple uses, and this requires stamina, which in turn tires you. Most shinobi don't mix these two separate energies until they actually perform a jutsu or manipulate it for something specific. This makes it much easier for them to regulate their chakra usage. So basically, if I draw on too much chakra at once, my body will make more for my various abilities and deplete my energy, and I will eventually come up short. So not just me, but anyone would eventually faint because of this. Simply put, it's chakra exhaustion. The same thing your sensei has at the moment. Stamina goes far quicker than your spiritual energy, and when it does, you drop. Plain and to the point. Blushing horribly, Naruto asked, "Isn't there a way to fix that? Like maybe learn to control this so I only mix the bare minimal for chakra and not short myself again?" Well, yes there is, but there really is no point in learning to control the energies separately. Spirit energy can't affect physical objects easily. The only point of it would be if you had to fight a true elemental being, but even then you could just use their opposite element instead. Physical energy can be used for attacks, but only in incredible amounts. Usually, only high-level demons and summons can do that. The only other use for pure physical energy is to supercharge the body, but you can do that with chakra anyway and not get the backlash from the pure physical energy. So how are we going to fix this whole thing? I can't go around being afraid that I'm going to faint from chakra exhaustion because my body is acting on its own. When your body is fixed tomorrow night, the mixing problem will be too. Your body is just screwed up at the moment and is not doing anything right. As for the control problem, we will just go over your control exercises again, as well as everything else just to be sure. Now be sure to give everyone an explanation as to why you will be in a red energy wrap for 8 hours. It starts tomorrow night. Thanks Kira-chan. Any ideas of what I should tell them? Asked Naruto. Say you're going to heal yourself. It should fool your teammates, no problem. Kakashi is another thing, but he will probably just ignore it. And you can tell Hinata the truth. I'm going to rest until it's time. I've got one hell of a headache. Thanks again, Kira-chan. Have a nice nap, I love you, Kira-chan, thought Naruto to himself. Kira stood rigid before the sofa in the mindscape, not sure what to think. She knew how Naruto felt, and it was obvious by how he acted, but to hear the words was something completely different. As a small tear ran down her cheek, Naruto heard a small giggle as he started becoming fully aware to his surroundings again. As Naruto began to come back to full awareness, he couldn't help but laugh lightly when he saw that Sasuke had apparently fallen asleep on the floor and had slid right next to Sakura. She still had the largest grin imaginable. He was going to be sure not to let Sasuke forget this anytime soon. This is just too good. Where's my camera? Thought Naruto as he dug through his pouch. Just as he noticed that Hinata was breathing steadily on his chest, obviously asleep, Kakashi came into the room on crutches, followed closely by Tazuna, just in time to see Naruto taking several pictures with a shinobi style camera. Just as Kakashi and Tazuna sat down, Tsunami started placing dinner on the table. Rise and shine, you four. It's time to eat. Spoke Kakashi, a little too perky for the sword genin. Well, it seems that the four of you went a little overboard. I better be sure to keep a better eye on you all tomorrow. Finished Kakashi as he sat down, obviously smiling at Naruto with a twinkle in his eye. Just as Sasuke woke and noticed his position, he was across the table so fast no one saw him move. How he got over the table without disturbing the food, no one knows. But since Hinata was somehow next to Sakura now, one would guess a modified Kawarimi was to blame. As Sasuke was getting his breathing under control, snickers were a commonplace at the table. So how was the training session, Sakura? Asked Kakashi, still eyeing the camera in Naruto's lap. Sakura took a moment before composing herself and then said, Naruto. Kun and I spared for a while, and he said I have the chakra scalpel mastered. Apparently, my problem is my chakra capacity and stamina. I'm going to be doing irregular workouts now as well as sparing. Naruto also taught me Kage Bunshin to help with my chakra. I can only make one for now, but he said I should get better soon. Kakashi looked worried for a moment. You do realize Kage Bunshin is a B class kinjutsu and is very dangerous. It was a very good idea to use it to quickly build your reserves, but you could easily hurt yourself. I would prefer that you not use it unless I'm around. Sakura just nodded since Naruto had given her and the others the same speech. Now Hinata, how was your training? Hinata slightly blushed as she said, Naruto-kun and I spared for about an hour. When we were done, her said and I was the better with taijutsu and that my medical jutsu were coming alone fine. Kakashi looked at Naruto for a moment to see him nod back, very impressive, Hinata. Once I'm healed, I would like a spar myself. I also would like to begin training you in the uses of your fan. You know how to use a battle fan? Asked a skeptical Sasuke. Somewhat. I never have used one myself, but they are very prominent in Suna and I have seen them used with my Sharingan, so I should be able to teach her some forms and hopefully basic Futen Jutsu. Better to know a little than nothing at all. Now Sasuke, how was your training? Asked Kakashi. Hinata just nodded with a small smile on her face as Sasuke spoke. At first I was only studying a basic healing jutsu Naruto gave me, but after Sakura performed the Cage Bunshin, I decided to try it myself and ended up making 11 clones after draining myself dry. Then as I recovered while Naruto trained with Hinata, I worked on another medical jutsu from Naruto. I haven't been able to master either one, but I'm close. Medical chakra is rather difficult to produce and use. When it was my turn to train, Naruto gave me this sword. After Sasuke had drawn the sword, Kakashi recognized the basic design and said, well, isn't that interesting? This sword is made for Akumo nin. You see, lightning chakra is very common among their nin, so weapons like this are made to make use of it. Unlike all the other elements, lightning is very hard to control and has very few jutsu available, and the ones that are seem very rigid in their use. The element is wild and very unpredictable, so they channel it into weapons to give them an edge. So then this sword is useless to me other than a normal weapon? Asked Sasuke. He had gotten excited at the idea of it being special. Of course not, the weapon is made to channel lightning. Just because you probably don't have that element chakra doesn't mean I can't teach you a Raiden jutsu so you can charge the sword that way. It won't be nearly as powerful as the chakra alignment, but still very useful. Excuse me Kakashi. Sensei, what are you talking about? I have never heard of nature chakra before? Asked Sakura. I will explain it more in depth tomorrow after we do some other training exercises, but chakra elements are actually my plan for your power boost. Now normally, shinobi aren't trained in their chakra alignment until Junin, but since this is such a dire situation, I will be starting you all early. It takes years to master your alignment, but if you can just use it even a little, then you will be much more effective in the upcoming battle. All the genin just looked odd as the Wave Country citizens just tried to ignore them since they didn't understand a damn thing. Kakashi then turned back to Sasuke, sorry about that. I got a little off track. Now you were telling me about your training with Naruto? Sasuke grunts as he sheaths his sword and throws a look at Naruto that clearly says, thank you. After giving me the sword, he said he had left some Cage Bunshin here to watch all of you since we were gone. Apparently you were talking about the Sharingan and the ways to activate it. After one dispelled and Naruto received the memory, he decided to entice me to activate it. Kakashi, now scanning Sasuke more closely seeing the specific wounds, asks, any luck? And now that I think about it, why didn't Naruto heal all of you after practice? I came close, with Naruto's weights on and all the damage to my body. I was getting very close, but I ran out of chakra again before it happened. We are planning to have a sparring match between the other three and me tomorrow to push through. But I was wondering about Naruto not healing us myself. After my turn ended, Naruto asked all of us to fight him at once and he ended up fainting on us of all things. Kakashi tuned to Naruto with a slight glare to his eye as he said, now Naruto, I can understand wanting to help Sasuke activate his Sharingan, but trying to beat him into the ground isn't a good idea. Neither is working yourself that hard. This fainting is rather problematic. Do you know why it happened? The beating Sasuke into the ground was the fun part, but you have to admit if he activated his Sharingan it would be a huge help. The reason I fainted, to put it simply, with how screwed up my body is right now, it isn't drawing on my chakra correctly. In short, I thought I had plenty of chakra when I didn't, and fainted from chakra exhaustion. Said Naruto as he looked at Sasuke, smirking since the Uchiha was fuming after his barb. If that's the case Naruto, we really need to get your body fixed. You are just a liability if you can't even control your chakra correctly. One of the main reasons for the Sandaime allowing this mission was because we had a med nin with 2 extra genin along, and the others knowing some healing tricks is nowhere near having you around. Said Kakashi in a worried tone. Don't worry, Kakashi. Sensei. I've already started to fix things. The training today has shown me where my problems are, so tomorrow night I should be able to get everything fixed. Kakashi looked on worriedly and asked, there won't be much point in training tomorrow if your body is still a mess. I think you should take tomorrow to rest and take care of whatever it is you need to do. Tomorrow is mostly chakra control anyway. You sitting it out won't hurt. This must have something to do with the Kyuubi's influence. At first I trusted the Sandame's advice to leave Naruto be, but there are just too many questions floating around. This works out perfectly, Naruto-kun. While they train, we can prepare for the next tale to finish forming. If that's what you think is best, Kakashi-sensei. I just don't want to miss training. Don't worry, Naruto. The first step is advanced chakra control, and that you already have. Then it's some specific control exercises after that, which we most likely won't start for several days. Now all of you get to bed. We will have an early start in the morning. All the genin merely nod their heads as they head upstairs. These next few days will be interesting. How far will those kids reach in 2 weeks, and will Kurenai kill me for training Hinata in her alignment? The next day, as everyone sat down for breakfast, Naruto appeared from the doorway with a small red glow surrounding him while his seals were blazing red. He seemed deep in thought as he stared down at his hand. Naruto seemed to flex them a few times as he extended and retracted his claws. Is everything working alright now, Naruto? Asked Kakashi. Naruto, being slightly surprised to hear Kakashi's voice so loudly, jumped lightly as the glow faded while he turned to face the Junin. No, everything seems to be the same, Kakashi-sensei. It seems that my senses had been dulled from the misplacement of my chakra for a little while. I think it will be a few days before I get myself back to normal and do some chakra control. In the meantime, could you keep it down? That really hurt. Whined Naruto as he held his ears. No matter how much you improve, Naruto, you will always be Adobe, said Sasuke, but to everyone's surprise, much softer than normal. Oh, this from the guy that prefers fan. Boys to fan. Girls. Said Naruto with a foxy grin that, to everyone's further shock, reveals 1-inch-long canines. At first they wondered how they fit in his mouth comfortably, but when he yawned, he showed that his bottom canine had thinned and lengthened to just over a half an inch as well. When he again closed his mouth, it was as if they snapped together perfectly. As Naruto looked back with confusion, he had to think, what's wrong? They're looking at me like I have a forked tongue? No forked tongue, Naruto-kun. Just longer canines. Since I'm building up a large amount of Yuki in your system, some of your demon features will strengthen. Even more after the cocoon forms. With a light cough, Kakashi was able to bring everyone back from their thoughts on Naruto's new fangs. Well, let's all eat so we can start the training. I plan to use the next 3 days for chakra control and then move on to the basics of elemental affinities. Everyone just started to eat and enjoy the peace of the morning until fan. Boys. You Dobi, I'm going to kill you. Not far from the bridge, in a wooded area, are the 4 genin and Kakashi gathered. Just in case, Naruto and Sasuke had each made a cage bunshin to accompany the bridge builder. That way they wouldn't be too far away during training, and he could finish up the work on the bridge. Additionally, Kakashi had promised to go to the bridge as soon as he had finished explaining the exercise. Alright, so having above average chakra control and stamina is one of the most crucial steps to discovering your elemental affinity. Simply put, your elemental affinity is the element with which you are most powerful. To use it, you must literally transform your chakra into the element, which is an extremely challenging manipulation. This implies that precise control is required for this manipulation. This will be extremely challenging for you at your current level, and I seriously doubt that you will be able to use it in the 2 weeks we have left. Nevertheless, the training will be worthwhile if you can all even begin to grasp your respective elements. The first exercise you will do is one that should allow you to master any kind of jutsu once you have mastered it in theory. At least theoretically. Kakashi-sensei, what kind of training will allow us to do all that, and what's the point of doing this training if we can't master it in the time we have? Sakura questioned while every genin displayed a confused expression. Really easy, Sakura. If you all put in the necessary training, even though you might not be able to master your element in the time we have left, you can all get much better. You will acquire endurance, self-control, physical conditioning, and the how is it that you climb trees. Exclaimed Kakashi, getting off his crutches to see the 3 shocked faces and hear Naruto exclaim, oh. Sasuke questioned out loud, tree climbing? Yes, your initial training for chakra control will involve tree climbing. For those who require it, it will also aid with endurance. Kakashi responded. Standing in the middle of the dense forest, he towered over the assembled genins despite being unable to move without the aid of crutches. With disgust on their faces, Sakura and Sasuke discussed how climbing trees would be part of their training. Hinata remained as quiet as ever in situations like this. Knowing exactly what Kakashi was talking about, Naruto had an excited look in his eye and was relieved that things were going his way. Sakura questioned, failing miserably to hide her skepticism in her voice. "What kind of training is that?" she asked. "Leaping trees isn't like this," Kakashi explained. "You won't be using your hands, or claws, in Naruto's case." Naruto's famous foxy grin materialized, instantly brightening his face. This was going precisely his way now. If fortune favored him, Kakashi's training would precisely move his chakra control in the direction he desired, returning it to medic. Nin standards. Hinata just appeared to listen and stay silent while the others asked question after question. It was among the aspects of Hinata that consistently drew Naruto's interest. Hinata would remain silent and listen until she had all the information or until the person speaking turned to ask her a question, regardless of the topic or circumstance. It was an unattainable feat for him. He was a questioner all the time. All Sasuke and Sakura could do was stare at their sensei, bewildered, and get mad at Naruto for being so gregarious. "How can we ascend without using our hands? It's not like jumping off trees, is it?" Sakura inquired, assuming it was related to chakras. "It's comparable. But it would be simpler if you simply observed," the Junin sighed resignedly as he raised his hands from the crutches and made the traditional gathering seal. The genin's attention was drawn to his feet by a subtle blue glow. Then, as the genin gazed in wonder at their sensei, Kakashi stumbled over to the closest tree, put his foot on its trunk, and continued to wobble up its side, totally defying gravity. He landed nearly 30 feet above the ground, dangling beneath a tree limb. With a hint of amusement, he questioned, "You understand now? Ascend a tree by gathering your chakra in the base of your feet. Once you have mastered the art of chakra usage, you can accomplish this. We'll move on to the next exercise once everyone has mastered this one." "Wait a minute." Sakura gave a stern call. "How is learning to climb a tree going to make us stronger?" "I already explained this, Sakura, but..." Kakashi then began to lecture about how learning to climb trees enhanced one's chakra reserves and how mastering the technique of summoning chakra into one's feet could enable one to perform any known jutsu and was crucial for mastering their element. Naruto was watching with curiosity as the explanation was given, wondering if the next exercise would also help with his retraining. The Junin merely flicked his wrist to launch 4 kunai towards the genin beneath him. He laughed as he observed their inexperienced tree climbing endeavors. Sakura managed to scale her tree to a height of over 60 feet thanks to her impeccable control. Sasuke only managed to ascend 15 feet or so before losing control and unintentionally exhaling too much air. He cut across the trunk, which led to him being thrown off the tree. With Sakura's Jiyuken training, Hinata was able to match her before Sakura slashed her tree and back. Flipped onto the ground with grace. Despite Kakashi's advice and his own better judgment, Naruto chose to proceed with the exercise. Getting his second tail might mean he has to practice his chakra control once more, but it could still be helpful. In addition, it was preferable to idle away the time. To his shame, Naruto only managed to plant one foot on the trunk before an explosion of navy blue chakra launched him across the clearing and slammed him into another tree. With a loud crunching groan, the tree he tried to climb fell over because its weakened base could no longer support its weight. There was a distinct imprint of the blonde's body in the bark of the tree he crashed into. When Hinata realized what had happened, she quickly joined Naruto. Sasuke approached Naruto cautiously as he moaned in agony. "Can't you do anything right, Dobi? Are you attempting suicide now?" Sasuke inquired, his sarcasm evident in his tone and a flicker in his eye. Nobody knew if it was as a result of Naruto's failure or the fact that his chakra had destroyed a tree. Sakura questioned from her high branch, "Naruto, can't you do anything without destroying something?" "Whoa!" exclaimed Naruto upon realizing Sakura had become extremely arrogant. "It's fantastic, Sakura-chan. You've already become extremely elevated." "Well, there you have it," Kakashi observed with ease, grabbing the genin's attention right away. "A clear gauge on how well each of you controls your chakra. In Sasuke's case, too much causes him to be driven from the tree. In Naruto's case, far too much causes him to destroy the tree, and the proper quantity. Next, Kakashi gestures toward Sakura and Hinata. And you were able to perform like our kunoichi. Sensei. I understand that my control may be compromised at the moment, but this seems a bit excessive, Naruto remarked, gesturing to the fallen tree. Is there another issue with me? Inquired Naruto. After giving this some serious thought, Kakashi said, I wasn't going to explain this until a few days. Although your injury has undoubtedly contributed to your current lack of chakra control, there are additional factors at play as well. At any level, there are two categories into which all forms of chakra control can fall. Every genin had gathered around Kakashi, eager to hear too, and Kira was actually listening for the first time. Recomposition in two dimensions, spatial and physical. When a shinobi uses an elemental jutsu or other technique that modifies the physical form of their chakra, the result is physical recomposition. You mean like my Kaiden jutsu? Sasuke inquired as the other genin settled in to hear him out. Correct. Physical recomposition is what happens when a shinobi changes their chakra on the physical level, such as elemental jutsu, many ninpo jutsu, and even Naruto's medical jutsu. Casting a puzzled glance at himself, Naruto questioned, medical ninjutsu is a physical manipulation? Before Sakura exclaimed, you mean you've been healing us and haven't even known what you were doing? The other genin turned to face Naruto in shock. When Sakura finally settled down, Kakashi said, now, calm down. Most ninja don't even know this until they begin training in their element. Of course, Naruto wouldn't know this. This is very advanced material that isn't really necessary outside of elemental training. As with the Juken fighting style, when a person's chakra enters another's body, it is typically rejected and causes harm because it is seen as a foreign substance. However, the Hyuga physically alter the chakra to cause even more harm than usual. Medical chakra is only physically changed so that the person receiving healing can easily absorb it. This disables the body's natural healing processes and enhances them under the medical ninja's control. This is an excellent illustration of opposites and how both of those manipulations operate. One of the reasons I was taken aback was when I discovered that Naruto, a medic nin, was using Juken. As Naruto speaks, all the genin slowly nod in comprehension. I was wondering why Juken felt so off to me when I started learning it, Naruto says. I suppose it was a stretch to go from my medical training to Juken. Sasuke continued, you say these manipulations are so difficult, but I've only been working on this jutsu for a few hours and I almost have it mastered. For an instant, Kakashi appeared disinterested, but then he stated, Sasuke, manipulating the chakra is what's difficult, not creating it. A physical manipulation can be performed by anyone with sufficient training. The tricky part is in how to use and manipulate the chakra. Moving forward, learning physical recomposition takes longer than learning the other method. Since each element has a unique physical composition, most shinobi seem to stick to one or maybe two elements due to the time commitment required to train for subjects other than their initial areas of expertise. Without my Sharingan, I personally couldn't execute all of my various jutsu. Smirking, Sasuke said, so when you copy a jutsu, by using the power of the Sharingan, it allows you to instantly learn the physical recomposition needed? But Naruto shot him a glare in response. Yes, once more, this is the reason why the majority of shinobi are never able to learn more than two elements. For advanced medical jutsu, it is the same. Medical shinobi can be learned by most anyone who is willing to put in the time, study, and practice necessary to learn extensive anatomy, but talent is the only thing that's really needed to advance in the field. Most people only ever become aides because they are incapable of doing it. Naruto's status as a Class 3 field medic is therefore remarkable considering his youth. Do all of you comprehend physical recomposition now? Kakashi was asked. Once more, the genin nodded slowly, the new knowledge still rattling around in their minds, until Hinata inquired, Sensei. Just to be clear, if physical recomposition is elemental jutsu or anything that modifies the chakra's basic form, does that imply that spatial recomposition modifies regular chakra, as in the case of tree jumping in this exercise of climbing trees? As everyone stared at Hinata with wide eyes, she couldn't help but blush deeply. Yes, Hinata, that would be correct, Hinata said. Any manipulation of pure chakra is known as spatial recomposition. As in any kind of outright manipulation, such as tree climbing or tree jumping. Kakashi, not that this isn't fascinating, but what does this have to do with learning our elemental affinity or jutsu in general? Questioned Sasuke, showing a tiny tick. With a heavy sigh, in short, physical recomposition dictates the kind of jutsu you will use and why, whether it be elemental, medicinal, or whatever else you can find. The strength and range of the jutsu are determined by spatial recomposition. To discover your elemental affinity, you must have both. By definition, an elemental affinity is just the element that your chakra is already close to, the one that will be more effective for you to use because it will be easier for you to shift your chakra to. Finding your elemental affinity will help you begin to learn how to make your own jutsu in addition to making learning jutsu in general much easier because you will have a specific element to concentrate on. The significance of learning to create their own jutsu became evident as the eyes of all the genin widened. Their power would increase greatly even if they just learned this, and once they mastered their respective elements, who knows what they could accomplish. Kakashi felt that the boys would need a little teasing to motivate them to keep going, as she looked down at them. Naruto gave a slight flinch at that. I guess among the four of you, Sakura and Hinata are the closest to the becoming Hokage with their show of control. It also seems the Uchiha prodigy isn't as great as we thought. Kakashi then tilted his head, which caused Sasuke to scowl. Naruto started to twitch at this point. Also, what kind of medic? Nin can't even do a simple manipulation like this? He was a medic, damn it, even though he knew he had a long way to go before becoming Hokage. Sakura screamed at Kakashi, worried that he would make Sasuke angry with her. Shut up, sensei. Sasuke-kun will probably hate me now. The boys looked at each other, neither seeming to be paying much attention to Sakura. They turned and ran for their respective trees as Naruto gave Hinata a small squeeze and they grinned. When Kakashi realized they no longer required encouragement, he moved to the clearing's edge. He could have stayed on the branch a little longer if he could have, but he could already feel his already thin reserves rapidly running out. He left the genin to their ways once he was safely on the ground and made his way to Tazuna and the bridge. As soon as Kakashi vanished from view, Naruto smelled a well-known young boy approaching from the clearing's edge. He couldn't help but smile, though, because he could hear Kira raving about how fascinating and helpful this training would be. That's incredible, I never thought those boys would go this far, Hoedo yelled as he observed the genin from a tall branch. From a nearby branch, the man with long hair declared, Master, we are ready to strike at your command. With the Junin gone and the blonde still weak, this is the perfect chance. Weak? Hoedo asked, casting a suspicious glance in his servant's direction. I apologize, Master. I thought you had been informed. One of our shinobi approached to listen to the genin during their training yesterday and overheard that the one called Naruto is unable to control his chakra properly, except for the crudest of jutsu. The reason is unknown. I apologize. Hoedo turned slowly to face the white-haired man, and said, No. We will wait until the end of their training today to strike, with not a trace of emotion on his face. You wish to take them while they are weakened, Master? Are they really that much of a threat? The white-haired man asked his master, looking at him curiously. Kukuku, no, they are no threat. Not at their current level. Before I wished to test their strength for myself, but it's obvious how powerful these boys could become after simply watching them. I will not allow them to slip through my fingers. They would only grow weaker within Konoha under the watch of those fools on the council. The moment they began to show any real power, they would attempt to limit them just as they did me. When night falls, I will set these boys on the path that will make them mine. Hoedo started yelling uncontrollably, and it felt like the surrounding trees' shadows were engulfing him and his servant. A compound that appears to be built into the trees itself can be found deep within Wave Country's forests. With multiple smaller ones surrounding it, the entire structure appears to hang 40 feet in the air, with a pointed roof. Little bridges connected each of them, and it appeared that the only access to any of them was through a winding walkway that led to the biggest structure. The dreaded demon of the mist is lying in bed inside, watched over by his constant apprentice. At that moment, the door opened and two Runin entered, followed by the robust businessman Gado wearing an obviously expensive business suit. One was rather large, his chest bared by his tattoos. A black patch was also covering his right eye. The one called Waraji said, I'm surprised you have the nerve to show your face around here after taking such a beating. The second one had graying hair that hung down to his shoulders and appeared to be rather ordinary in appearance. Zori smirked and said, Ninja from the Hidden Mist would appear to be vastly overrated. You can't even clean up for your miserable subordinates. Demon, yeah right, exclaimed Gado as he stepped forward a few steps. The nin with the lovely features wondered, are they going to attack? As the Runin started reaching for their swords. No, Gato replied, lifting his arm. Nothing to say for yourself? Zabuza just kept quiet as the man's arm went on. No last words? But before he could get to Zabuza, a crushing grip caught hold of his arm. The feminine nin yelled, "Don't defile Zabuza. San with your touch. How dare you?" cried Gato in agony as the two Runin pulled out swords. The feminine nin had crossed their swords violently at each other's throats, subduing the two swordsmen in a blur of movement. You don't want to do that, when I'm angry. The three intruders squirmed in fear as the nin, in a display of strength, forces the swords out of the Runin's hands. There had better not be any more screw-ups. If you fail again, don't you dare think about coming back here. With a heavy sigh, the nin sat down as Gato and his goons fled the room. Haku, there was no need for you to, Zabuza said, revealing the kunai he was holding. I know, but it's too soon to finish Gato off. If we cause a commotion now, we might alert them and be on the run again. For now, let's be patient, okay? I don't trust that midget man. He seems to be building a small army of thugs, maybe to betray me. Keep an eye on him, Haku. If he tries anything, we kill him and get out of here. Haku's only response was, "Hi." Hours passed before Kakashi made his way back. Sakura watched the boys continue their training while she lay panting on the ground beneath her tree. Hinata herself had grown so tired that she needed to take a nap. Even though Sakura was deeply in love with Sasuke, she couldn't help but feel proud of herself for once because she could accomplish something better than him. After a few hours, Naruto was able to climb and descend the tree with ease, as though it were the most natural thing in the world. Sasuke had reached the same heights as Sakura and Hinata, but he was unable to stay attached to the tree in the same way as them. He was beginning to feel the effects of it. He couldn't walk up the tree, but he could run all the way up it. The tree he was working on actually appeared to have had its trunk chopped off by a lunatic. Sakura couldn't help but notice his tired and frustrated expression. She thought, maybe he'll come over here and ask me for help. Despite her gasps, this only made her laugh out loud. Yeah, he'll come over and ask me for help. Then, we'll talk and talk for hours. Just me and him, paradise. However, he didn't appear to be paying any attention to her. He continued to run up his tree while glaring off to the side with a killer intent that even Zabuza would have been proud of. Hinata appeared to be staring dreamily in the same direction. At last giving in to her curiosity, Sakura stood up and moved to face the spot where he was scowling. She caught sight of Naruto. With a dark purple fire in his hand, he was practically skipping up his tree. His tree had very few scratch marks, and each one was distinctly higher than the others. She watched the blonde fly high into the branches and then turn around, descend at the same speed, and simply repeat his cycle while creating and releasing fire. Her only coherent thought at the moment was, whoa. Other than a thick layer of sweat on his face, there were no obvious indications of chakra exhaustion or depletion. Naruto saw that she was staring at him, so he jumped down and landed soundlessly, giving her a smug, sly smile. That's enough, okay? Exclaimed Kakashi. In a moment, all four genin were in front of him. Sakura had had enough, and Sasuke was not far behind. Hinata appeared somewhat more fortunate. Despite having some burns on his sleeves and appearing slightly exhausted, Naruto was clearly happier. He continued, looking at Sasuke, Naruto, and Hinata. Tomorrow, Sakura will guard Tazuna. San with me while he returns to his work on the bridge. You three will come back here and continue training. Sakura, I know you've already mastered this, and I doubt it will help with your stamina anymore. While at the bridge with me, we will work on your stamina. Naruto, you have your own training to do, I'm sure, so you are released. The rest of you have 2 days to finish this exercise. After that, we will move on to the last one before we determine your elements. I'm sure you will do it sooner, but, just use your time wisely. The kunoichi with pink hair was ripped. Although she was curious about the type of instruction she would receive from the one-eyed pervert, it appeared that Sasuke was also dissatisfied with her receiving one instruction. That's alright, Kakashi. Sensei. I'll stay and continue this exercise. Why don't you take Sasuke-kun? Everyone was initially taken aback until they realized who it had been. Sakura, you are the one that needs training at the moment. Hinata is progressing fine. Sasuke and Naruto are ready for their training after they get better control. You, on the other hand, are lacking in stamina. Also, with me still weak, I can't train Sasuke in what he needs. This is the perfect time to fix your problems. Kakashi concluded by emphasizing, one weak link could break the team, and with who we're facing Sakura could be the winning or losing link. Despite Sakura's physical limitations, everyone appeared to accept the response. Sakura approached Sasuke as everyone started to leave and asked if he would like to take a walk with her. Why do you keep wasting time on foolish things like this, Sakura? If you have time to flirt with me, then why don't you stay and train some more? Kami knows you need it, he grunted, as usual, but this time he said no. Watching Sasuke walk away with Kakashi and out of the clearing devastated Sakura. After a brief period of time, Naruto informed Hinata that he would be leaving to speak with Sakura. As Hinata started to catch up to the others, all she could say was smile. Sakura was having none of it when Naruto called her name. He thought for a split second that she was going to burst out of her skin when he gently placed his hand on her shoulder. With a gentle tone, Naruto apologized, saying, "I didn't mean to scare you." Sakura said, "It's okay, Naruto. I was just lost in thought for a moment. Let's head back." But before she could say anything else, Naruto put his hand on her shoulder once more. "Sakura, why do you chase Sasuke like that? He's never shown any interest in you other than a teammate, and I really think it's starting to get to you, all of the rejection." Sakura slapped his hand away and screamed, "What would you know? I love Sasuke. Kun and I know he has feeling for me too. He protected me before and he will do it again," then said in a small, uncertain voice, "I know he would." Sakura's eyes became filled with a burning fire. Naruto paused for a moment before responding, "Yes, he would, Sakura, just like he would for me or Kakashi. He protects you as a teammate, not as his love. He isn't interested in you that way. I'm not sure that Sasuke is interested in anyone that way." "What would you know, Naruto?" "No. Baka. I know Sasuke. Kun will love me. He's just still hurt about his family." Sakura angrily slapped Naruto across the face before he could say anything more. Sakura was trembling a little at the sound of Naruto's icy voice and exposed fangs. "And what do you know about his family, Sakura? Do you even know what happened 5 years ago to change Sasuke so much?" Naruto asked. "They were all killed during the Uchiha massacre. That's why he's like that, but I know that I can help him if I stay by him." "You really do love him, don't you?" asked Naruto as he gazed at her eyes. "It's not my place, but I'll tell you what happened. Then maybe you can understand why he acts like he does." Naruto then breathed deeply and said, "They were all killed on the same night by the same man. He left no one alive. Men, women, children, the elderly, everyone was killed. Nearly 200 members of Sasuke's clan lay in the streets when he came home that night. When Sasuke arrived and saw the bodies, he ran straight for his home to check on his parents and older brother. When he got there, he saw his mother and father dead. There, standing in front of them, was his older brother with his Anbu katana still impaling their mother. Sakura was shocked. She knew about the massacre, but she never imagined it was carried out by one man or that Sasuke had witnessed it. "Sasuke? Kun's own brother?" she exclaimed, too stunned to speak, but equally amazed and disgusted by what she was hearing. Yes, his own brother was the one to kill his clan, but that wasn't the hardest thing about the night. Naruto paused for a moment. "I don't know what exactly happened between those two, because Kakashi wouldn't tell me and never said anything about it to Tizuna for my clone to overhear. If you want to know, you would have to ask Sasuke. What I do know is that Sasuke's older brother Itachi used a very powerful genjutsu to make Sasuke relive the slaughter of his clan over and over for 3 days worth of time." "What? How could this have happened? Why didn't anyone know?" Sakura sobbed at the thought of what had happened to her Sasuke. "Kun. That's the problem, everyone did know and pitied him for it. He never wanted pity. He wanted a family that wanted him for him, not his name. He told me that once when we were younger. That's why he lived alone. Everyone that offered to take him in wanted the last Uchiha, not Sasuke. It's the same with the fan. Girls. That's why he ignores them." "What? Why would Sasuke? Kun do that?" Naruto let out a long sigh. "Because all of them want his looks and Uchiha name. That's how it started out for you too, didn't it? But for you it became more as it went on. The majority of them though are still just after his name and what goes with it. That's why he ignores you. He can't tell the difference between you and another fan. Girl. That's it. He won't give me a chance because he thinks I'm a gold digger like those other whores. Sakura exclaimed as if lightning had struck her in the head at that very moment. Naruto blinked a few times, putting his pinky in his ear to clear it, thinking, wow. Basically yes, you are taking all the same approaches as the others do. If you want to get close to Sasuke, then try getting to know him by doing what he likes to do. Train with him, spar with him, and don't even think about him as a love interest. Think of him as a friend, and eventually it will happen on its own as long as you are strong enough to keep going. How do you know all of this, Naruto? Kun? And what do you mean by strong enough? It's Kun, again instead of Baka? Replied Naruto only to blush. First, I know this because I share the same pain as Sasuke. I know how he feels and so does Hinata, like I said before. But that's not it, what I told you will work for anyone. Everyone has their own interests, dreams, and hobbies. All you have to do is be interested in them and not just what they have or their looks, and by strong enough, I can tell that Sasuke won't make a connection with someone he thinks he has to protect. Sakura was lost in thought for a short while before she uttered, I need to be so strong so he can trust that he won't lose me. He doesn't want to lose anyone again. That's why he keeps his distance from everyone and not just the fans. Naruto started to move away with the happiest smile. He next heard, Naruto. Kun, you said that you and Hinata shared the same pain as Sasuke. Kun, would you tell me about it? This took Naruto by surprise, and he questioned, why do you want to know? We're teammates, aren't we? I guess I just want to know you better. Naruto simply turned and resumed his seat. We joked around, told each other stories, and spent the remainder of the twilight simply hanging out with friends. That night's dinner was a great pleasure. Hinata had assisted Tsunami in preparing a delectable dinner of rice and grilled fish. Taking a sip of sake, Tazuna exclaimed, boy, this is fun. I can't remember the last time I shared a meal with so many people. Sasuke and Naruto were discussing jutsu and what they had witnessed during the most recent battle with Zabuza. Sasuke was a little upset that Naruto had taken the man's jutsu technique while he hadn't. On the other hand, Kakashi was pleased that Naruto hadn't duplicated either of the Junin level jutsu and was quite impressed by how effortlessly he had remembered hand signs. Hinata and Sakura had been chatting endlessly about their predictions for each person's chakra alignment. Thus far, they have come up with the following ideas: Sakura, earth or fire; Hinata, water; Naruto, fire or earth; and Sasuke, fire. Silently chuckling at the children's joy at discovering their elements, or at his own death when Kurenai discovered what he had taught Hinata, was Kakashi. Why is this picture torn? Inari was looking at this the whole time we were having dinner. Someone's face is completely gone. Is that deliberate? Sakura asked herself as she was making her way around the room after dinner. Everyone's attention was drawn to Tsunami when she said, it was a picture of Inari's father, while she was cleaning the dishes. Soon after Tazuna finished speaking, Inari got up and walked out of the room, slamming the door as his mother called after him. Once upon a time, our entire village called that man a hero. Tsunami yelled after Inari, Father, I've told you time and time again not to mention that in front of my son. Sakura questioned, so this is why Inari acts so strangely. It sounds like there is a story here. Would you care to share? Replied Kakashi. The man in that picture was not Inari's biological father, but he was as close to one as you could hope for. Inari was such a happy and smiling child back then. But Inari changed after what happened to his father. Tazuna spent the next hour telling the Konoha ninja the tale of how the brave Kaiza arrived in the village of waves, prevented a flood, became a father to the young Inari, and saved the village from certain death. Use all of your strength to defend what matters to you. With both arms, defend it. Those were words Naruto would never forget. They all clenched their fists in rage when Tazuna told them about the man being executed by Gado in public. Along with the village's hero, Gado had also killed the village's spirit. Sakura then said, Naruto, what are you doing? It's late at night, as Naruto got up and started to head for the door. Don't even think about training anymore tonight, Naruto. You need your strength for training tomorrow. If you push too hard, you're going to die, Kakashi sternly warned. I'm going to prove to Inari that there are people out there that have known pain like him and are still happy. That he doesn't have to fear Gado as some kind of demon, says Naruto, pausing for a moment before standing motionless. And that a real demon trumps a fake one anytime. Naruto then extends his claws, activates his Shinkarugen, and releases a light-killing intent. When Naruto leaves the room, there is a brief period of silence during which Sasuke queries, "Why does the Dobi keep calling himself a demon?" "That's the third time he's done it since we've been on this mission." When Kakashi remarked, "If anyone has a right to claim that title, it would be Naruto." It's hard to imagine with how caring and gentle he is, but he has been through a hell that's hard for anyone to come close to. "Even you, Sasuke," Hinata squirmed a little, not liking the line of thought. Although Hinata, Sakura, and Sasuke were all aware of Sasuke's past, it was difficult for them to comprehend that Naruto had a more difficult past. Though the girls were certain he had sugar coated it, Naruto had told Sakura and Hinata about his past and early years. Most likely, sugar drowned it. After a few hours, still seated around the table, Kakashi and the other shinobi awaited Naruto's return. Nobody knew if what kept them there was their own soreness and exhaustion or worry for Naruto, but the moon was already high in the sky, he hadn't returned, and some of them were starting to get nervous. The genin had briefly discussed the horrible things that could have happened to Naruto when he was younger, but regrettably, aside from what they had heard directly from Naruto, they knew very little about him. All they knew about him, even from their time together in the academy, was what had transpired there. To the surprise of the others, Hinata knew more than they did. Not that she would share everything with them, but even she acknowledged that in the years that she had spent watching Naruto, there had also been years during which she had not. Sakura said in a low voice, "Maybe we should go find him. It's been hours since he left. Something could have happened." "You girls are still exhausted from training today," replied Kakashi. "Simply moving around would be unwise. Searching the forest for Naruto is out of the question." Hinata worriedly said, "Kakashi Sensei, we can't just leave Naruto-kun out there. It's already late and getting cold." "I know. I'm worried as well, and after the training you all did today I didn't want any of you to leave or train, but I wasn't able to stop him. You need to rest and Naruto can take care of himself. He has all his life," Kakashi said, a flash of worry flashing through his eye. The sound of the door opening in the cool night air drawing everyone's attention to it before either girl could refute Kakashi's point was Sasuke's back disappearing from view. "The first thing on my list when I get back on my feet is to have a long talk about obeying orders with those boys," Kakashi said, letting out a deep sigh. While Tsunami shows them all upstairs to their rooms, the two girls exchange worried looks with one another. As Naruto continued to move through the Juken Kata that had become so natural to him over the past few months, he couldn't help but to let his mind wander. He would just jump from one subject to the next as if there was nothing to focus on as he smoothly flowed through the Kata. Every move he made led to a different look on things, opinions, and the what-ifs of life itself. He had never been one to consider these things, and if asked about any subject outside his own training, he would most likely smile stupidly as he scratched the back of his head to avoid trying to answer, and yet here he was in the middle of a chilled forest, training himself under the light of the crescent moon because some 7-year-old boy had gotten under his skin. It was a taxing idea. He had started to think about his life, trying to really decide if his life was so horrible compared to the lives of others, what he was doing differently, and even about Hinata and how he truly felt for her or if he felt for her at all. It was strange how he had arrived at his current train of thought. At first, everything was about his training. What he needed to do after his body was fixed later tonight. How he could use his abilities more fluidly in battle. From there, his mind wandered into his medical training and all the shortcomings he had in the field. Disease, poisons, drugs, medicine mixing, long-term effects of genjutsu on the mind, all of these subjects Naruto had little to no knowledge in. He could recognize them, give on-site treatment, but past being a field medic, a medic for the battlefield, he came up short. He was a paramedic, not a doctor, and he hated it. To realize that he truly fell short was hard to accept. Naruto had seen the difference between himself and the higher-ranked field medics and he wasn't impressed. All the first class had that he didn't was field experience, and he would have that sooner or later, but when he had acted as a nurse in the hospital is when he truly began to see the difference. The doctors, the fully fledged nin, they were in a class completely on their own. Specialists of every kind, years of experience, most of Junin level before they retired to the hospital. This is where Naruto truly found the difference in where he was and where he needed to go. He may have not been the youngest nin, but all the others he worked with were so dedicated. Nothing else existed to them. They were medical shinobi and nothing more. had spent years of study, training and hard work to get to where they are, and yet he had done it in a few weeks thanks to his Kage Bunshin. Naruto had to wonder that if now his Bunshin couldn't help, would he be able to keep up with his medical studies? Would he eventually fall behind? The life of a shinobi was of battle and not healing. To cause wounds and not heal them. Could he really do both and rise in skill as he wanted, or would one suffer so the other could rise? It was as he followed these thoughts that he finally landed on the subject of Hinata, the one thing that he truly didn't know how to handle at all. Kira had appeared out of nowhere, and the feelings had just appeared with her. It wasn't something to think about or worry. He loved Kira and she loved him, that was a certainty. No thought or reason was needed, that's just how it was, and Naruto was sure that it was all he needed, but Hinata was different. She was there for the longest time, but never in that way. He had never even thought of her that way, and yet she had loved him all this time and he had never seen it. Hinata was easily one of the most beautiful girls he had ever seen, almost a match for his Kira. Chan in every way. She was quiet, intelligent, kind, gentle, loyal, sexy, all of these could easily be used to describe Hinata, but these were all just pieces of her. Something someone would be able to observe from afar, not what Naruto knew her as. She was strong, willed, powerful, and righteous in everything she did and saw things with a pure heart that shone in her eyes. This was the Hinata he knew existed under the surface and the one he saw every so often in those white eyes of hers that were so famous for being emotionless in the rest of her clan. She was precious to him, a bond that was strong. The feelings he had for Hinata were similar to the feelings he held for Kira, but yet they were different as well. He knew that what he felt for Kira was love, a love that was a warm glow that always seemed to surround him. That's what he felt love was. A constant feeling of, he didn't know what, but for Hinata it was as if he was on fire. When she took his hand, brushed by him, or merely smiled, it was as if a flame lit inside him, but as soon as it was there, it disappeared the moment she was gone. That's what had him so confused. Naruto always cared about Hinata and Kira, but no matter where Kira was, the warmth was always there. For Hinata though, it seemed to come and go. Naruto had to wonder, was it only a physical attraction to Hinata that made the fire appear? Was she a friend that merely appealed to his instincts, or was this how his feelings for Kira had started and he simply couldn't remember? "Hey Dobi," called Sasuke from the edge of the clearing, only to see his blonde teammate nearly jump out of his skin. "The others are worried about you. You need to come back to Tizuna's or else you're going to hold back our training tomorrow." Note to self, prepare horrible prank for Sasuke, thought Naruto as he caught his breath. All the training combined with his recent startle had seriously winded him. As Sasuke smirked at his teammate's obvious shock, he took a moment to survey the clearing. One tree was covered in claw marks, some far deeper than the others, maybe sword strikes, stood on one side. Another tree covered in scorch marks and indents that obviously showed repetitive Juken strikes stood near the first tree. If only the Dobi would focus all these separate skills into a direct fighting style instead of dancing around with them, he could be devastating. It's obvious that he could be the perfect short 2. Mid-range fighter with his skills. Maybe I should, wait, why am I even thinking of helping him? If he can't figure out how to use his own abilities, then it's his own fault. I need to focus on my own power. It was at this moment that Naruto's earlier words once again flashed through Sasuke's mind. Help each other reach our goals? Is it even possible for someone to help in mine and not get in my way? To borrow another's power for my goal, no one can help me achieve mine. But either way, the stronger the team is, the better my chances are. I can at least have some fun pointing out his flaws. If he figures it out from there, then it only proves he's a worthy rival for me. As Sasuke finished his thought, Naruto had finally caught his breath and began packing up his gear. Making sure his gem and sword were all in place and secure. He took a moment to readjust his weights as he began walking toward Sasuke when the ridged Uchiha asked, "Why do you fight the way you do?" This had Naruto looking strangely at Sasuke as the Uchiha had his head turned to one side. "Why do I fight like I do?" repeated Naruto as he just seemed to let his question hang in the night air. Sasuke let out a deep sigh. "The way you fight, you don't have a fighting style, you have 5 of them. You switch between them as if you didn't know what you were doing or couldn't decide how to act in a situation." 5 styles? What are you talking about, Sasuke? I've fought you to a draw lots of times. Naruto was truly confused now. He had already had a lot on his mind from before, and now he was just getting too deep. Sasuke just seemed to glare out of the corner of his eye as he said, "The way you fight, it's like you're 5 different people that attack at different times. You seem to switch between Juken, ninjutsu, that fire of yours, your medic training and your dojutsu. Naruto had actually bristled at what Sasuke had said, but he was actually too curious about what he was hearing to try and argue it, not yet anyway. Sasuke then said, "Look at me, for instance. My taijutsu and ninjutsu flow into each other easily, and I have no pause in my attacks. This makes it hard for anyone to deal with my style unless they are considerably stronger than me. When you fight, it's very choppy, like you can't decide on what to do. For your taijutsu, you have Juken and your med. Nin taijutsu, and it's obvious to anyone watching you that you shuffle between the two because of the pause you give. It's the same for your ninjutsu and fire attacks. You seem to think what you're going to do, and when you use your dojutsu, it's like you're a different dobi altogether. All you do is sit back and observe. You only act when attacked. It's very strange. It's like 5 different shinobi are trying to fight using your body at the same time. Is Sasuke trying to give me advice? If he is, he's making sense, strange sense, but still sense." Naruto straightened as he took a thinking pose and stared at Sasuke, which seemed to make the Uchiha uncomfortable. "So, you're saying I need to be more like you, Teme?" Sasuke glared a hole straight through Naruto's head as he said, "No Dobi, I'm saying that you need to stop fighting like other shinobi and fight like yourself." "Myself?" asked Naruto. "How can I not be fighting like myself?" Sasuke seemed to shift from one foot to the other as he stared off into space for a moment. "Like I said, you're fighting like 5 different people Dobi. Instead of having one style that uses what you've learned, whenever I learn something new, I make it a part of my style. It doesn't matter if it's a jutsu, weapon, or renden. I always make it a part of my style. You, Dobi, already know so much, but none of it is your style, it's the style of others that you learned and they're clashing with each other. You've never put anything together in your own way. You've never made it yours. Just done exactly as you were shown." 3 things happened in Naruto's mind at that moment. First, he realized that he had never heard Sasuke talk this much at one time, ever. Second, Sasuke was actually trying to help. In his own way, but still trying to help him, and third, Sasuke was right. Naruto had never thought of it that way before, it was just like what Hayate had said. He had learned other styles of fighting, but instead of taking the lessons from them to strengthen his own style, he simply used them, and that wasn't enough. It seemed so simple now that he looked at it. He should have been stronger than he was, but he couldn't ever figure what the problem was, and here it is. Naruto had always found Hayate's choice of not teaching his style strange, but it made sense now. No matter how hard he trained in them, the styles of others would always be just that. He needed to make his own. But how? What would he take from what he had learned to make his own? What was his style now? Did he even have one to build off of anymore, or did it drown in everything he had learned over the few past months? These questions passed through Naruto's mind as he stood there stock still while Sasuke looked on with a curious eye. He could see Naruto's gears turning from his words, and he couldn't help but smirk at the idea of having something up on the blonde, but there was something else. It was a kind of pride. But what kind of pride was it? It wasn't of winning a fight or learning a jutsu. It wasn't even the pride of realizing he had become stronger that was so often around these days since joining his team. No, this pride was different. Was it the pride of helping someone? As the 2 boys stood in the clearing, both lost in their own thoughts, neither noticed the sudden movement in the surrounding trees until they finally hear a voice call out mockingly. "I guess Konoha Genin are really declining in skill if they let us get this close." In an instant, Naruto and Sasuke moved back to back as they scanned their surroundings. "How many you count, Sasuke?" asked Naruto as his blood-red slits scanned the dark forest. "I get 10 surrounding us and another 2 to the northeast on a high branch." "You?" replied Sasuke as he drew a kunai with his left hand and raised his right in a gathering seal. "I get the same, and I can't find any more in the area, but the ones surrounding us have chakra levels close to yours," said Naruto as he took a basic Juken stance. "So we're facing 10 genin, what about the 2 in the branches?" asked Sasuke as 2 of the shinobi surrounding them begin to slowly move forward. 10 chunin level actually by their chakra level, but chakra doesn't tell rank all the time. "The other 2, you don't want to know," said Naruto with a deep serious voice. "Chakra may not be the best way to tell rank, but most shinobi don't get anywhere near the level of chakra those 2 have without Junin training, or other methods. Either way it doesn't look good." Light chuckling could be heard from several of the shinobi hiding in the shadows of the trees. "Actually, you're very correct, Blondie. The 10 of us are Chunin." Naruto slowly shook his head as he prepared for what was to come, so Gato got impatient and sent some more thugs, but this seems a little overkill to take out a bridge builder. Think about it, Naruto. If these nin were after Tizuna, they would have attacked the house and not followed us. Plus, if you haven't noticed, none of them are wearing hitai. 8 or anything to tie them to a village or as a missing nin. So it's safe to say that these guys are after something from us and don't want to give us any clue as to who they are. Naruto blinked a few times as his mind went through nearly every scenario that could come out of this situation, and far too many turned morbid for his liking. He tried to get Kira to wake up to get the answers that only she seemed to posses, but to his dismay she was still out cold from all of the energy she had built up for the cocoon. Well, Sasuke, it seems we have a fight on our hands. Just as Naruto and Sasuke picked their targets and were about to launch off, a voice came from behind the gathered shinobi that caused both boys to tense and turn their full attention to the man. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but these nin are not here to fight you. That would be my pleasure. Naruto and Sasuke clearly recognized the voice, but it wasn't until the gathered nin parted and allowed the form of Hoedo to pass into the pale light that the boys truly accepted it. This Hoedo, however, was different than the last time they had seen him. The same long shined black hair fell down his back. Light tan skin met their eyes as deep black pools stared down at them. Hoedo still wore a black kimono with classic black shinobi sandals, but this was all the same as before. What was truly different was the calm, kind, and collected visage of Hoedo was gone and replaced with one that could only be described as crazed and sadistic. Naruto was shaken. It was happening again. He may have not known this man long or even cared for him. Hoedo may have only been a client, but Naruto had protected him, shared what he had with him, trusted this man, and here he was betraying him. It was as if Mizuki was sneering at him as he stared at Hoeto's sadistic face. Naruto's eyes flared red as his mind clouded. It was slow, like falling in a dream. Naruto knew he wasn't falling, but it felt like he was being separated from his body as his anger grew and he couldn't stop it. Even if he knew it was the worst thing a shinobi could do, he was losing himself to his rage. He could see everything so clearly even though his vision was tainted a bloody red. It was like he was remembering something instead of experiencing it for the first time. It was like he was watching himself as he drew his sword and tore the ground out from under him from the force of the yuki he had drawn as he streaked towards Hoedo with an explosion of crimson. "Stop, Dobi, are you crazy?" yelled Sasuke as he tried to chase after him, but the red chakra was almost burning him as he tried to break through it. He had never felt it this intense before. He knew that when Naruto drew out this red chakra it was as if he rose to an entirely different level that he was hard-pressed to follow, but this was different. This chakra was filled with rage and hatred. Out for nothing but blood, and the Naruto he saw before him was beyond him. How? How did this happen and I never saw it? Did Naruto? No, when did he surpass me? Hoedo acted flawlessly as he dodged every attempt Naruto made to strike at him. It was like watching a dance as he smoothly flowed through Naruto's attacks. Sword strikes, claw attacks, even bursts of fire streamed from the boy faster than any of his subordinates could follow. Left, right, up, side, bellow, cross strike, it was an ever-changing pattern of attacks with such blinding power. Trees, rocks, and the ground itself was split under their power, and yet Hoedo looked on as if he had gotten a new toy. Naruto was struggling with himself. He knew in his mind that if he kept this going much longer he was more liable to destroy himself than this monster. He had always thought that if it came down to it he could win any battle. If he put everything on the line, that everything he and Kira had worked so hard for would be enough, but it was failing him against this man. Nothing worked. He was watching as his body tried everything he himself could do at the time, and nothing. For once Sasuke couldn't even act like he didn't care or that he was in control. He was surrounded by enemy ninja that seemed far too interested in him, and then he found his former client was the one after them. Now he was just watching as Naruto's eyes disappeared completely only to be replaced by bloody pools of red, and now he was going berserk using powers Sasuke had never dreamed the dirty blonde possessed. So, interesting, thought Hoedo as he continued to dance around Naruto with a critical eye. Those seals are unique, I wonder who crafted them. What purpose do they serve other than providing this unnatural power? Hoedo easily batted Naruto away with a high kick to his neck, sending him into the ground as he jumped into a tree. I will have plenty of time to figure that out once he's mine, but for now I need to stop him before he destroys himself. I doubt even a wonderful body like his can sustain much more, but how to stop him without damaging him? Hoedo watched as Naruto tore through the Chunin guards that tried to stop him from chasing Hoedo into the tree. It was sickening to watch. Naruto's claws easily tore through the Chunin, leaving bubbling red gashing in them as they fell to the ground. His sword sliced through another as if one fire. Even Hoedo was awed at the ease Naruto had in disposing of 3 of his Chunin before charging him again. "The boy is weakening," said Hoedo as he noticed that the red aura surrounding Naruto was slowly fading. Naruto once again reached Hoedo as he began to ascend the tree, but that was the mistake that Hoedo had been waiting for. In an instant Hoedo opened his mouth as a sword soared towards the unprepared Naruto, catching him harshly in the shoulder and launching him back into the ground. As the sword stuck deeply into Naruto's right shoulder, holding him against the ground, the red aura slowly faded from him. Sasuke watched on as Hoedo easily jumped from the high branches of the tree and stood over Naruto. He couldn't hear, but it was clear that whatever Hoedo had said had Naruto fully aware of him in an instant. Hoedo roughly tore the sword from Naruto as the boy let out a cry in pain. Hoedo watched in sick fascination as the wound slowly closed up before his eyes. Naruto took that moment to swing his sword with all the force he had left towards Hoedo. Naruto looked on in utter despair as his sword met with Hoedo's and shattered. Naruto seemed to look at his broken sword for a moment before his eyes clouded over and his arm fell to the ground, still clutching what was left of his sword in his hand. It took him a moment, but Hoedo eventually brought his foot down on top of Naruto's chest, forcing him to cry out again until his lungs were emptied, then savagely jab his own sword deep into Naruto's shoulder once again before he could regain his breath. Hoedo watched as the pain flashed through Naruto's eyes and he tried in vain to cry out again. It was then that Hoedo finally kicked Naruto with such force everyone in the clearing could easily hear the cracking of his ribs as he was sent flying back towards Sasuke. Sasuke looked horrified. "What? How? This guy, he's a monster. How? What can I do?" cried Sasuke in his mind as he looked down into the pained face of Naruto, but he too was sickly fascinated as he watched the hole in Naruto's chest close once again. He could even hear as Naruto's ribs snapped back into place as his muscle contorted under his skin to do so. "Kukuku. Here I was wasting all this time to ensure your body wouldn't be damaged, and here I find you heal damage as quickly as I cause it. How intriguing." Sasuke snapped his head up as he watched Hoedo start walking closer to him. It was then that he saw Naruto trying to brace himself, attempting to stand. Everything in him was telling him to grab Naruto, to pull him up, but for every muscle that tensed to move, another seemed to pull him back out of fear. This can't be the same Hoedo. His chakra level is higher than G. Sans, we, I, even Kira Chan doesn't have a chance against this guy. As Naruto finished his morbid thoughts after finally recovering from his horrid battle against such a monster, he was about to call out to Sasuke to make a break for the line of Nin when Hoeto's eyes flashed a grotesque yellow against his tan skin. In that instant Naruto felt as if a weight had been set upon him. As Naruto suddenly fell to his knees, Itachi's face flashed before Sasuke's eyes. It was happening again. A monster stood before him and he could do nothing against it. "Naruto. Naruto, what's wrong with you? Stand up, this is no time to." "He can't," called out Hoedo in a sickeningly sweet voice. "I have been watching you boys train for some time and have seen this boy's eyes. Eyes with such power can be just as much a curse as they are a blessing. The genjutsu? Don't mess with me. No simple genjutsu could affect Naruto like this," cried Sasuke as he tried to force chakra into Naruto's system. "It won't do you any good, boy, Naruto. Kun may be fairly advanced for his age as a ninja, but the level of jutsu I just cast on him is far above either of your levels. Jujutsu or not." Sasuke seemed to stiffen at this as he moved in front of Naruto. "At first I had no intention of taking my fun away with Sakajutsu, but it seems Naruto Kun has been able to discern my level and was planning to flee, and I couldn't allow that." Hoedo began to slowly approach Naruto and Sasuke with a gruesome smirk sliding across his face. "Damn Naruto, you sure picked a damn time to fall for a jutsu. Do I even stand a chance here? Is there anything I can do that you can't right now?" thought Sasuke as he turned to see that strained and almost painful look that seemed sculpted to Naruto's face. If Naruto was ready to run then. But before Sasuke could even move to grab Naruto, it felt as if someone had wrapped their hands around his heart and throat. What is this? I can barely breathe. Now Sasuke. Kun, I thought you would have had more sense than to try and run after seeing what that got Naruto. Kun, the both of you may be interesting for Genin, but you are still just pitiful Genin. My jutsu uses a compressed burst of killing intent to fully open your senses to me, breaking any defense you may have had, and then it's simple for me to cast a high-level genjutsu to hold you. Naruto's powerful senses and dojutsu only made that simpler since he doesn't have full control of them yet. I had hoped to have more fun with this, but it seems you insist on taking all my fun from me. As Hoedo began to slowly walk towards Naruto and Sasuke again, he began a long set of seals as purple chakra seemed to pour from him like venom. Both boys were on the verge of losing their minds from the foul chakra that was leaking from the man. It was as if they were in hell itself. Not being able to move, barely able to breathe, and having all their senses forced open, leaving their minds at the will of this monster's foul chakra. Move, move, come on, damn it, move, cried Naruto in his mind as he struggled to move his body. What did he do? I can, wait, my body is frozen, but I can still control my chakra somehow. If only I had more control, then maybe I could catch him in a. No, this guy isn't normal. Wait, my gem, I'll only have one chance at this. As Hoedo neared Naruto and Sasuke, the gathered shinobi that had survived Naruto's rampage seemed to smile in wicked and sinister ways. It was obvious that they knew what was to come. It seemed the more the sickly purple chakra poured from Hoedo, the more ominous he seemed to appear. Each step seemed to make the night darken as the air chilled as he passed. The very life in the air seemed to be forced away by this dark aura of Hoedo. Finally, as the visage of Hoedo with glowing yellow eyes and wild hair blown about by the force of his own chakra stood before them, all Naruto and Sasuke could do was stare on as it seemed fangs grew from his lips until even Naruto's paled in comparison. Well, I had hoped to savor this moment, but it seems you boys are still too young to give me any real entertainment, but I will leave you with a gift. Hopefully you will use it to grow strong enough to give me some fun the next time we meet. In that instant, Hoeto's neck began to stretch towards Sasuke as if it were a living snake. What is this freak doing? He's going to bite Sasuke, cried Naruto in his mind as he was channeled all the chakra he could into his gem. As the gem began to glow brighter and brighter, all in the clearing had to shield their eyes as the light became so intense they had no choice but to cover their eyes any way they could. The light finally engulfed the clearing in its crimson glow. The force was so intense that the shinobi could even feel heated air push against their skin. As the light began to fade, the sight was completely shocking. A blade of red energy had formed around Naruto's arm and forced the boy to stand as it impaled the ground beneath him, scorching the earth where it touched, but this was not the reason for the attention of the sinister shinobi. No, what truly was shocking was the second blade that had formed from the gem. The blade that had cleanly pierced through Hoeto's neck as his fangs cleanly pierced through Naruto's energy blade and deeply embedded in Naruto's gem and hand. Naruto looked into Hoeto's startled and oddly joyful eyes as his dark red, almost black blood slowly trickled from his hand to mix with the red chakra on his blade. He watched in horror as his gem changed from a brilliant red to a gory bubbling purplish black as something that almost looked like a dark purple mist or poison flowed from his fangs into it. With a look of shock and terror on his face, Sasuke lay behind Naruto. He was afraid not only of Naruto but also of the man he had just seen, a man with a hole pierced through his neck, smiling at him. However, this was not the reason that had sown such fear in Sasuke's eyes. It was the fact that the same man had suffered a second head exploding from his neck and tearing viciously into the flesh of his own neck at the exact moment he had bitten Naruto. The same material that Sasuke could see flowing through his veins and up Naruto's arm was suddenly visible to him as he screamed in pain. It was unbelievably painful. It seemed as though liquid fire was coursing through each vein. Sasuke had no choice but to scream until his voice finally gave out, but at that very moment, a rage, a need he had never experienced before, filled him. Fury that he was not the only one experiencing this. This was also happening to the one person who had ever shown him any concern for himself as a person, not just as the last Uchiha. Fury that he had failed to protect and had once again allowed himself to become attached to someone. And lastly, a desire to preserve the one other person he could genuinely consider a friend. You won't get away with this, Sasuke, holding Hoeto's neck so tightly that it was tearing into his skin, rasped. Once Hoeto's head was freed from Sasuke's neck, he looked not only into the red eyes he had always wanted but also over his priceless curse seal of heaven. Sasuke's grip tightened until a sickening crunch was heard, and then Sasuke finally passed out into blissful darkness. A crunch sounded behind Naruto, and he felt a burning sensation creep up his arm as his chakra blade began to fade. That's when he saw his once golden and red gem melt away, turning into a black and purple goo that started to crawl up his arm and swallow his wristband, eventually taking over his left forearm. The repulsive slime started to rip into Naruto's flesh and ignite his seals in a horrifying purple light, causing him to scream uncontrollably. The purple glow quickly engulfed every part of Naruto's body. Naruto kept screaming in agony, seemingly collapsing to let the strange energy do its work. all while the seal was glowing a sickly purple light that even showed through his clothes. Howato just watched, heartless, as his second head snapped off his neck and he reverted to his usual appearance, holding the gash Naruto had made in his neck. Kukuku. Howato coughed through the blood that was bubbling up in his mouth. It seems I truly did underestimate these boys. Many of the assembled shinobi tried to help their injured master, only to be mercilessly beaten away like flies. A man with long white hair and green eyes asked, Orochimaru. Sama, shall we gather your targets for you? Kimimaro. Kun, no. They're not prepared to accompany me just yet. It's evident in their eyes. I can never have them if they don't come to me voluntarily. My goal of making them prisoners would be futile. I'll give them a taste of my strength. The one item that they both look for. They'll approach me when they're ready for more. Very nicely done, Orochimaru. San. Our shinobi will assemble, and I'll send them back to base. Excellent. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens to these boys. I'm eager to find out how long they can keep me occupied. At last, Orochimaru and his assembled shinobi depart from the damaged clearing where Sasuke lay motionless, a gentle purple aura appearing to caress his skin simultaneously with a red glow emanating from the spot where Naruto had lain.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.